should Boston add a little bit of depth to their roster by the NBA trade deadline? We're going to break that down here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Allie Barefoot, and we know the Celtics have the best roster in the NBA. We know they are trying to go back-to-back for the first time since 2017, but pending any injuries, should we just add a little extra precautionary measures before the NBA trade deadline, and what would that look like? Before I break down the ins and the outs, I want you guys to go on ahead and do me a solid. Follow me on X at Allie Barefoot, and follow me on TikTok at Boston Barefoot. On TikTok, I mainly just post a lot of funny trends. I also do post clips from my show, so if you don't want to watch the entire 10-minute video, I get it, life gets busy. Well, I'll post condensed versions on that TikTok. Be sure to go on ahead and follow me right now. So we don't have to make a trade anytime soon. We actually have up until 2025 in February to do so. February 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time is when the NBA trade deadline cuts off. That means no more players, no more trades. Now it's just a race to the finish line. But knowing that we have Brad Stevens as our GM and knowing that he made not one but two trades at the deadline, the very last minute you could last year in February for Tillman and Springer, well, who's to say he's not going to try to do something again? But now that it is December 18th, on December 15th, there were three players that became eligible for a trade because they did sign a contract this last offseason. Neemias Queta, Luke Kornet, and Xavier Tillman. I go in depth talking about whether to trade or not to trade any of these players in another video on this channel. Go check that one out. But ultimately what I said is don't trade. If you have to trade somebody, maybe you could trade Tillman, but I'm looking to another player, and I'll talk about that in the back half of the show. There are four players that he cannot touch, and why would he want to touch? Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the two highest paid players in the NBA. They cannot be traded this season. Derrick Whtie, same thing. He was just recently signed to a contract in this offseason, so he cannot be traded. And same thing as Sam Hauser, which is one of your best shooters coming off the bench. Once again, why would Brad want to trade any of these beautiful guys? Well, doesn't matter because he can't. However, there are a few players that Brad may just want to consider taking a couple phone calls on. Just ignore Al Horford there. Nobody wants to trade him. But he is an upcoming free agent, and he may possibly be retiring after this season, so we do have to start to think about that moving forward. But for now, please don't touch Big Al. However, two players they could possibly aggregate will be Jaden Springer and Luke Kornet, just because they will be free agents in the offseason. But there's an asterisk next to Kornet because he does have bird rights, which means Luke Kornet can veto any trade that he does not want. So I'm really focused on one person out of the bunch, and I'm looking at Jaden Springer. I do actually think Springer will be gone by February 6th of 2025. I don't think Brad Stevens is the type of GM to really sit back and watch the New York Knicks get cat, to watch Lonnie Walker go across the seas and try and play and try to find a team, because reports have already shown that they tried to trade Springer in the preseason to keep Lonnie Walker around. So if they try in the preseason and now you're averaging career low minutes for Springer, I highly doubt they have much of a role for him in Boston. But he is making good enough money that I do think they could possibly go out and possibly pick up somebody else to add a little bit more depth for the Boston Celtics. So my question here to you guys is, should the Celtics trade Springer? I'm obviously going to go with why for yes. I do think that on the defensive side of the ball, he does help the Celtics out a little bit, but it's really not pushing the needle for me, and we've seen him on offense. I mean, it's just kind of a liability at this point. He's working on it, but not for the best team in the NBA. So I actually have three reasons why I would trade Jaden Springer. And number one, it's the fact that he costs $4 million a year. Right now, before Sam Hauser's new contract kicks in, Sam Hauser is making $2 million less than Jaden Springer. Yet he's playing about 20 minutes more than Springer is a game. That would clear up a whole bunch on the roster. And if they do decide to trade Springer and not do a player for player, but instead trade for draft capital, they will save $16 million off of their roster, which is a lot considering the Boston Celtics are well over that tax penalty line already. Not to mention, like I said, he averages not only his career low minutes per game, but also the least amount of minutes per game for the Boston Celtics. He may be in line with J.D. Davison, but as a two-way player, that's still pretty crappy when you're a $4 million player right now to pretty much just practice. You're paying this practice player. That's how I see it. And I do think there are a couple players you can get for under $4 million right now. I mean, think about it. If we didn't re-sign Sam Hauser in the offseason, some other team could be looking at Sam Hauser saying, wow, Brad's only paying $2 million for this guy. We need him right now. Before I break down those players, let me tell you guys about our sponsor on Celtics Today. I'm talking about Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America. And all you have to do is just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And right now, they do offer MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. And if you join now, it is the holiday season. Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. So if you guys needed any more reason to go on ahead and play, I just gave you a few, not to mention I am taking advantage of that free square Nikola Jokic to have more than 1 point on Christmas Day, and my JMU Dukes are playing in the Boca Raton Bowl today, so I am going to take George Pettaway to have more than 67.5 rushing yards because, as always, it's Go Dukes. Here are my Prize Picks. Feel free to copy them or go on ahead and make your own. All you guys have to do is just download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code CLNS. This will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code CLNS. That'll give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. What time when Prize Picks run your game? All right, let me tell you guys real quick, but NBC Sports Boston had to say about possibly what the Celtics are able to do by the trade deadline. The Celtics cannot aggregate contracts in a trade, meaning they cannot combine contracts to acquire a more valuable player. If the Celtics were to move, say, Jaden Springer's $4 million contract, they cannot combine him with Queta's $2 million deal to hunt a $6 million player. So we're looking at $4 million or less. The -- player that comes to my mind is Javonte Green. Why? Because is he the flashiest player in the NBA? Hell no. But he has played for the Boston Celtics before, and right now, when I look at the Boston Celtics depth chart, when I'm looking at the shooting guard position, of course you have your Holiday and you've got your Derrick White, and thankfully you've got Peyton Pritchard, who is amassing his numbers right now, and he's just putting the entire league on notice. But after that, drastic drop. And I'm starting to get a little bit nervous of putting all my eggs into Peyton Pritchard's basket and just hoping that he stays as healthy as he had last season when he played all 82 games and all games through the playoffs. But after that, it's really kind of a drop-off. So when you have a player like Javonte Green, he knows how to space the floor. He's a good rebounder. He's not the greatest in terms of playing 2 ways. But once again, you're not looking for a starter here. You're looking for a guy that can increase that depth chart. And for a guy that's already been in the green uniform, why not bring him back? And if you're not going to bring back that Boston Celtic, why not bring back Daniel Theis? Once again, I did talk about Daniel Theis in a video I posted a few days ago talking about possibly adding some depth behind Kristaps Porzingis because we know him, we love him, but he is made of glass. And when you add a player to that center depth chart, it does allow you to continue to play or sit Al Horford in back-to-back ball games. And Luke Cornett, Neemias Queta, and Tillman, they are fine basketball players. But do they push the needle for the Boston Celtics? Honestly, it depends on the game. I've seen some games where I'm looking at Luke Cornett saying, why are you not starting? And same thing for Neemias Queta. Then other times I'm saying, oh, that's why. It's because you foul too much. It's because you get beat when you're playing players that are faster than you. Daniel Theis just adds a little bit of injury insurance that's in our depth chart, being 6'8". He's got a good width. And once again, he's played for Boston. So my question for you guys is, I've talked a little bit about the guard position, a little bit about the center position, but which position needs depth on the Boston Celtics roster? Going ahead, let me know. I mean, you could still always go for the wing position, but right now I'm really harping on that center position, knowing that Kristaps Porzingis has already been in and out of ball games so far this season. But one name that really caught my eye here, and one very interesting player, would be Shake Milton. The former New York Knick, now playing in New York, but this time for Brooklyn. Shake Milton is actually having a pretty good year in terms of offensive stats, which we know Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens love looking at one specific statistic, and that is going to be what they do from downtown. And when you look at Shake Milton, he's averaging about 45% from the field, but he's averaging over 40% from downtown. And I do think that could help, once again, knowing that you use Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench for purely offensive statistics. If you had another guy like a Milton that's shooting 40% from a three-point line and even 45% from the field, 6.2 points per game isn't a lot, but you know what? As a bench player, I'll take it. Sam Hauser right now is averaging under 10 minutes per game, so why not add somebody like Shake Milton, give a little injury insurance to now your newfound player being Peyton Pritchard, and that way if something does happen moving forward, knowing that Jrue Holiday has also gotten a little bit injured throughout these games, it could provide some depth. So my last question for you guys here is, do you want the Celtics to make a trade at all? They really don't have to. Do I think they should? Yes, because you can't really predict the future. You just want to prepare for it. So if you guys really want a trade to happen, all you guys have to do is type trade in the comment section down below and just spam it. As always, I am on X. I am on TikTok. Feel free to follow me outside of the YouTube platform. And if you haven't already, go on ahead and subscribe.